Hey guys, I'm Ethan Moore from Stockman Supply. I have a drum sander here that Bob dropped off. I met Bob at the Hamilton Woodworking Show. He bought this sander, this drum sander kit. Looking at it, he didn't exactly remember when, but looking at the pulleys and the bearings that are on it, looks like around 15 years ago or so. He's been using it for quite a while. He loves it, but recently, the way he described it is it has stopped sanding. So there's a couple things that could be going on with it that we got to look at. The first thing I want to do, just because it's always intriguing to me, I want to give you a little tour of how he set this drum kit up. So I'll get the camera to come over here. But this isn't a plan. This is just a box that he made up himself. But it's kind of intriguing how he's got the dust collection set up on the inside here. So he's got his drum going across. Then he's got the dust drawn right at the end there. So I kind of like that. And then underneath the sander, there's a little shelf where he's got his sandpaper stored. So it's a kind of a neat little design. Nothing special, obviously, but it's been functional for a lot of years here. So, looks like, what grit do we have on here right now? We have 100 grit on here right now. So let's see, what we can do with that 100 grit. Full piece of pine. Oh yeah, you can tell it's not removing as much material as it should be with the 100 grit right now. So, yeah, a couple things that we're going to do. First thing that we're going to check is the drum setup. That's the important part. Now, whenever you're setting the drum on either a drum kit or a Flatmaster, you're always going to want to use a 220 grit. 220 grit is the setup grit that you're going to use, or whatever your finest grit is. If you have a 180 or a 240, use that, but 220 is ideal. Okay, so we'll throw that on there. This is my first time. Alright, here we go, we got her here. So I'll wrap this baby on there like that. Okay, so with my 220 grit, I got that drum, that sandpaper cut a little bit too long here. But what we're going to do, we're going to get a straight edge, get a better straight edge here. We're going to see how that 220 grit is sitting here. So I don't know if the camera can come look around here at the gap. So if you look at that, you see I got a little gap of light down there. Now if you look on this end, it's a little bit closer. So this gap right there, I can tell you right now, it's a little bit too big. Now the other thing you'll notice here, this drum top is probably about 15 years old. If you look at the drum top, you see a little gap, see a little air line there, or a light line I should say. It's got a little tiny bit of a warp to it. So that is part of the issue. Yeah, you can actually, over here the drum top is a little out. So not a whole lot we can do to fix that with the MDF, but I will do one thing that'll help it from getting any worse. I got a couple pieces of angle iron here. What I like to do sometimes is just on the outside of these tops, just mount a piece of angle iron here, and you can do this along the length on the sides here, and that'll keep it from moving. Now it's already moved here on me, but this will keep it from moving anymore here. So let me just drill this in. All right. Bob's going to be surprised. He's going to have a few new pieces on his sander. Let me grab the other piece here. That's going to keep it from getting any worse. And what we could do if we got real excited is run a piece right along there and even towards the inside. Or along this edge here. But anyway, that won't fix it, but that'll help for sure. So let's set this drum up. Now, the way Bob has this, see these two screws right here? These aren't just regular screws. These are what they call Robertson micro adjusting knobs. Most hardware stores will carry these. In the States, you can't get the Robertson, you got to get the Phillips micro adjusting knobs. They're just regular wood screws. They're nothing special. But what we're going to do here, we're going to adjust this So that this top, I'm going to screw this in a little bit, is set a little bit closer to that 220 grit. So I just want a small gap of light. Let's see where we're at right now. Oh yeah, let's go a little further. I'm going to go about a quarter of a turn, both sides here. Look again. I'm getting a lot closer. So a tiny bit more on this side, and just the tiniest bit over there. We're going to call that good. Alright, so you can hear that scratch, but I'm not rolling the drum. That's about how you want that set, just below. Okay, so now, before we even use the 220 grit, I like to put my coarser grit on, like my 100 grit, because what can happen, it can be really deceiving. It can be very deceiving. You put your 220 grit on there, you set it up beautifully, everything's the way it's supposed to be, just below the table. But then you go and you grab a piece of wood, and that wood that you grab, without paying a lot of attention, it can be really deceiving. It's not perfectly flat. And that 220 grit, it's only got a 2/1000 of an inch grain of sand on it, a 2/1000 cutter. It's only going to remove 2/1000 of an inch per pass from the high spots. So if your piece is a 16th of an inch out of flat, it's only going to remove a couple little spots. So really what I like to do is I get it all set up, I put my coarser grit on there, like the 100 grit, and then I go and sand and see how it's sanding. That 100 grit, we can actually use the flattened stuff. That's a lot better. So you guys can hear that. I'm very happy with that. Same thing over here. So it just needed to be reset up. The thing about the wood frame sanders, they work well, but because of the wood, they have a tendency to move over time. Different changes in humidity, things can change. If you drop that top on those fancy Robertson micro adjusting knobs, it can actually change the settings of the top. So you do got to be careful with them. But yeah, a little bit of setup. We got that drum working beautifully again. So yeah, I'll send this back to Bob, see what he thinks. And for anybody else, if you have any questions, email me at info@stockhamsupply.com. Like this video and subscribe. But also you can comment on this video if you have a question also. Thanks for watching.